the world had a product that could reduce or eradicate widespread disease and illness while putting an end to millions of preventable deaths, wouldn't it be in the public's best interest to utilize it? Vaccines contribute to the prevention of 28 communicable diseases, and according to the WHO, or World Health Organization, has currently averted an estimated 2 to 3 million deaths. With the increased exposure of the anti-vaccine movement, the rates of children and adults going unvaccinated continues to rise and is a detriment to public health. Their concerns are over how these vaccines affect people, and specifically in their side effects, their effects on the body's immune system, and their concerns over the additives that are used. Today, I'd like to address some of these concerns and also share with you some information on why using vaccines is much more beneficial than the complications that they may cause. And just as with any medication or procedure, there's always going to be risks involved. On day one of the medication lecture in my nursing program, they emphasized that no medication is without side effects, but that the ultimate goal is to treat the patient with the maximum amount of, least amount of risk, but the maximum amount of benefit. And vaccines operate in much the same way. With the polio illness, it's highly contagious, and with 1 in every 200 having irreversible paralysis, and of those 200, 5 to 10% of them may die of respiratory complications. Measles has the highest incidence of death in young children due to complications such as blindness, encephalitis, which is 1 out of 1,000, severe dehydration, and pneumonia, which is 1 out of 100. In the case of tetanus, the side effects of the illness are muscle tightening, trouble breathing, and high blood pressure. And this can lead to pulmonary embolism and pneumonia, with 2 out of 10 cases resulting in death. For the majority of vaccines, however, the side effects are typically mild to moderate and generally include fever, rash, itching, fatigue, nausea, and some headache, and sometimes dizziness. Rare circumstances, such as instances of severe allergy, are rare to occur and typically include wheezing, trouble breathing, high heart rate, and also hives. And this does need to be addressed quickly, and it's an emergent situation. However, typically, before any vaccines are given, all of these allergies and issues with the body systems are always screened for before any sort of treatment is given. And according to the CDC, the likelihood of these severe allergies from happening is 1 or 4 out of every 1 million cases, with some of them so negligible that they can't even be tested. However, to address some of these side effects, there are places such as the Vaccine Adverse Event Reporting System and the Vaccine Safety Data Link Project. And these places help to document and validate and analyze some of these side effects. And anything unusual is sent to the FDA for further testing to maintain public safety. Now, with these incidents of illness and injury more from the actual disease as opposed to the vaccine, it shows that the body's response to vaccines is much better as far as their immune system is concerned. However, anti-vaccine campaigns have raised questions with the effects on children especially on their immune systems, with regards to the amount of vaccines that are given at once, their scheduling, and also whether or not they even need vaccines to begin with. Now, with the development of newer and better vaccines, we are now able to give children more vaccines at once at an earlier phase when they are the most at risk for getting sick. And this also applies to the elderly as well. According to vaccinateyourbaby.org, vaccines now have fewer antigens, which are known to cause some of these adverse reactions, and are tested every time before they're grouped together. Now, this grouping allows for many vaccines to be given at once with 1 single shot, and is much, much less invasive than using 4 shots. Furthermore, the amount of antigens that a child encounters in an average day is between 2,000 to 6,000, whereas with a vaccination schedule is only 150. The way these vaccinations are scheduled is also really important too, because if there's too much or too little time in between, it can affect the body's immune system. And these schedules are constantly evaluated by the CDC in order to maintain that the body's immunity is at safe levels. Skeptics often question the amount of vaccines during these schedulings and think that maybe if they're spread out a little bit, it would help. But the American Academy of Pediatrics has explained that there's no scientific proof that stretching out the scheduling is any safer, and in fact, it actually delays the time in which you would be immune and causes you to become sick. And it is also thought that exposing ourselves to the actual illness would build up our bodies on a natural immunity. And according to chop.edu, the difference between a vaccine and an illness is the dose and the aforementioned scheduling. Now, when you actually get an illness, the dose that you're getting is much, much higher than you would get with a vaccine. And you cannot control when you're actually going to be exposed. And this causes your immune system to have to fight much harder to become immune as opposed to the smaller, more controlled doses with the vaccines. Often contracting these illnesses means that you have to get very, very sick in order to build up the same immunity that one would get with the vaccine. So let's face it, do you really want to get sick in order to get immune? I don't think so. Not to mention that in order to, for some of these people that are walking amongst us who are immunocompromised, some of these illnesses that we are vaccinated for are extremely contagious and have an asymptomatic infectious phase. And this can cause them to have serious complications and become hospitalized, and is a threat to public health. And while these advancements in public health and safety are wonderful things, and it's caused many to become very complacent about how dangerous these diseases actually once were. According to immunizationinfo.org, before 1963, there were 3 million cases of measles and 500 deaths per year as due to that. And as of 2000, the CDC reported that measles had been eradicated from the United States thanks to vaccinations. In the 1950s, polio had once paralyzed 13,000 to 20,000 people and had an estimated 1,000 deaths per year. And not only has polio been eradicated from the United States, but it's also been eradicated from every single country with an exception of 3, thanks to vaccines. But yet the anti-vaccine groups continually doubt the safety of some of these additives that are included in the vaccines and their potential link to autism. Aluminum is one of these additives, and it's used as an adjuvant, which is to stimulate the production of the immune system. The concern is when these children are having these large doses of vaccines that they're getting toxic levels of the aluminum, which is untrue. And in fact, they're exposed to aluminum on a regular basis and actually get more aluminum with breast milk and even formula than they ever would within a vaccine. And not to mention any aluminum that is taken in via vaccine is 50 to 70% of it is excreted within 24 hours. Also, thimerosal is another additive, and this is also, it's used as a preservative and continues to be a topic of debate whether regarding its link to potential link to autism. Not only has thimerosal been taken out of many vaccines as of 2001, children under 6 no longer get vaccines with thimerosal. But not only that, the vaccines that do have it have such trace amounts that it has no effect on the body. In addition, the study that was once done by Andrew Wakefield trying to link the MMR vaccine with autism has been completely discredited. And any repeated studies that the CDC, the FDA, and the National Institute of Health have been unable to link anywhere to determine any link between thimerosal and autism. And fears such as these discourage people from getting vaccinated, and it's since caused a resurgence in illnesses that were once at lower levels or have been eradicated. As I mentioned before, measles was once eradicated from the United States, but it is now, as of 2014, is at a 17-year high, and with 500 reported cases in 17 outbreaks across 20 states. Pertussis is also known as whooping cough, has been reported by the California Department of Public Health to be at epidemic proportions. And as recently as June 13th, there were 800 new cases in the matter of a 2-week time span. And these trends will only continue to increase if we ignore all the benefits and the positive outcomes of using vaccines. So while the controversy will always remain surrounding vaccines, I hope that I've reflected for you today how much vaccines can be a positive thing and the importance of staying vaccinated. The greatest tool that you have at your disposal is education. And I urge you to seek out evidence-based and reputable websites such as the cdc.gov, who.int, immunizationinfo.org, and immunizationforgood.com for further information. We are fortunate to be afforded the luxury to even question these very vaccines that are responsible for making disease a thing of the past. And it would be ethically wrong for us to allow disease and death to occur knowing that we have the tools to prevent it. So please always choose to vaccinate because we all deserve to live in a world free of preventable disease.